Ms. Evans, state instruction, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. To provide for the safety of those attending this meeting, I want to give the following instructions in case of emergency. First, take a moment to know where your exits are. If an emergency arises that prompts us to evacuate, I ask that everyone exit this room in a quick and orderly manner through one of the two exterior doors, one to your right and the other behind. Once you exit the building, we ask that you safely cross Bramble Street to our parking lot to be safely away from the building. Our staff will help provide direction and assistance. In the case of a tornado warning, we ask that you exit this room into the hallway where we will remain until it is safe to exit. In the event of an active shooter in the building, we will run if there is an accessible escape path. We ask that you try to evacuate the premises. Secondly, hide. If you can't evacuate, find a place to hide where you are less likely to be found. Lock any doors that you can. Thirdly, fight as a last resort, only if your life is in imminent danger. Our staff will provide assistance on what to do. Thank you for your attention.
God, we are so thankful for the new year that you presented to us. May we keep our minds on you and learn how to do things better than ever before. Make this year a great year to cause our citizens to appreciate the opportunity of our service, but help us to serve in such a way that you will be glorified, honored, and praised through Christ our Lord. Amen.
You have in your agenda package your minutes of the previous week. Additional corrections, if not.
Mr. Chairman, if I could point out one correction on page 2. This is in the section of the election of officers. You notice that under Board of Commissioners Vice Chairman, it said it was moved to approve the nomination of Mr. Felton, and of course that should be Commissioner Hunt.
It's kind of hard for him to serve.
I saw that.
In addition with those corrections, the motion with those corrections.
Motion with those corrections, yeah.
Yes, sir. Down here in page 3, bottom paragraph. There's a moment there where I don't understand what it says. The last line.
On page 3.
On page 3, the bottom paragraph and the bottom line.
We talk about it being crucial to have reliable communication infrastructure.
Okay. Okay. You're going to be sure right.
Got it. Very good. Second.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it know by the vote of aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are approved with those corrections. Case of appointment, Ms. Evans.
Yes, sir, Mr. Williams. We have with us tonight Mr. Sean Olson, who's the President and CEO of CloudWise. As you know, CloudWise we've had ongoing conversation with them to try to expand broadband deployment throughout the county. We had some discussion about this at our last meeting, and so I thought it would be a good idea to have him to come and to give an update on where we are with that project. So I asked Mr. Olson if he'd come in. There's a presentation on the screen. You also have a copy of it at your place there.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I appreciate you having me tonight. We have kind of a short presentation. I think the goal is to really do some Q&A with everyone and make sure everyone's comfortable with where we are in other things, and anything I can do to kind of help educate everyone on where we are, what happened to deal with. As Eric mentioned, my name is Sean Olson, founder and CEO of CloudWise. There's a lot more folks behind the company other than myself, but predominantly a handful of investors that have coalesced over the last few years to help service this gap that we've seen throughout our state and obviously throughout the country. I'm not going to go into heavy detail on who CloudWise is. I think I imagine Eric and the team have filled everyone in, but if you do have questions about something, please feel free to ask. So I think you have a printout of each of these. This guy work. So So just wanted to kind of share with you how we traditionally operate. We're not a young company, but we are just started getting into the rural side of things in the last 5 years. We're trying to put together a model that would allow a county really to take some control over the situation, because for the most part, it's really up for every county just to sit and wait for a large incumbent to come in and do their thing. And what we found is that's created a lot of gaps, and really, because of legislation, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. So our model, our design is really to go throughout the county. The FCC does provide some level data to show where the service gaps are, but we know that that's not accurate. And even the last round of surveys that they've done has not provided too much additional clarity on where the gaps are. So what we've done is to start to work with the counties themselves to release surveys out to the counties and to the citizens in the counties in order to find out really who is either not happy with their internet or who has inadequate internet, or in some cases who doesn't have internet at all. So we worked with Edgecombe County to get some of those surveys out early on, I guess last year, and to get them out to the schools, get them out in any means necessary, and try to get some of that feedback. And then what we do is we then take that feedback that we get and we map it, and we then look at what assets, what wireless assets, what fiber assets, what assets are in the community that we can leverage and use in order to bring service to those folks. Most of the maps and the data that we get is countywide issues. Either one of the large incumbents isn't upholding what they have going on, or there's just no one there. We've seen that from everywhere, from a Wake County to a Pitt County to a Buncombe County. I mean, it's pretty widespread. So what we typically will do is we will then take all those assets, we'll take that to engineering, we'll engineer a plan, again, that leverages both wireless and wireline services. Fiber and wireless is predominantly what we use to bring the most service to the most people at the least cost. In addition to that, in some cases we'll work with the counties, like if they have places that they need to get access into, if they need to get fiber into, kind of pull that all together. But at the end of the day, it's someone, you now have a seat at the table to how we build our network. And that's really what we heard from most of the counties that we met with. It's, we can claim, but it goes on dead shoulders. So we originally started this with Nash County. I think you guys probably heard about what we've been doing with them. We started that process about 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago, to get some legislation passed that would allow a county to invest into a company like ours. And we got that passed in 2018. And our project started the next day, literally in the midst of Florence, which is where we're from, out of Wilmington. And we started that project. So to the west of this map, obviously, we've got a number of towers going on. We're just now moving into phase 3 of that network. And our hub, where we bring all of our service together, actually sits right in Rocky Mountain. So it's very ideal to be working with you guys, plus we really like working with Eric and his team. So we then took this map and took the rules that the state set forth, which is basically census level data the FCC uses. And we ultimately have been told originally that we would have the ability to contest the FCC data. If we have real evidence that there's not quality service in place, we can contest it. When they got all the surveys, when they got all the applications back, they threw that rule out. I'm sure someone had something to do with that. But nonetheless, there was still a project to be had, just based on the FCC data. So the next map was the original FCC data, so I apologize, it's hard to see on the screen. Hopefully it's a little better, and if not, we can get you other maps. But basically, the census blocks that we originally applied for, and understanding that this is the state, it's a $2 million maximum grant. So obviously, we can maximize it if we try to. So we applied for about a $2 million grant from them to cover these areas in Edgecombe County. When that then came back to us, it goes through what's called a protest period. And I know we've been talking before and after this, excited about the original project, less excited about where we landed, but still an opportunity and still funding. But once we submitted this and the protest period started, and that's basically, traditionally it's a 30-day window to where anyone, incumbents, anyone can come back and say, hey, this census block I have service. And all they have to prove, because it is based off FCC data, at least it was last year, is that they have one address in that census block that they service. And so long as that's the case, we have to remove that census block from what we can service. So on the next map, if you have questions as we go, let me know, but this is kind of a bit of a story here. So the next map are the census blocks that were left over after the protest came back. It's pretty substantial. So we had a decision to make, really. Since we use wireless technology, really the network design doesn't change, right? If I have 10 census blocks underneath a tower, or I have 2, I still have to put that infrastructure in play. So what that does to us as a provider is it decreases where I can submit to get funding from the state for the project, and it also decreases the amount, or increases the cost per installation if we keep the project size the same. So it really made it a tough kind of a business case, if you will, for a provider to go out and build this network. So that's when we really started having some deeper conversations of saying, look, before we move forward with this, we want to know that we've got the community support. And it could be county, it could be city, it could be private industry, but that we have county support, community support to build this network. Our goal was to get 1 or 2 awards last year. We got 5 awards last year. And so it started to have us look at more like a regional approach to making this happen. And I know we've had discussions with counties about how do we put together a regional plan. It kind of gets messy at the end of the day, so we just left everything to kind of compartmentalize each county by county basis. So that being said, with the current project, the way that it's scoped out, if we only do funding from the state, we can only service these houses over the next 7 years with that funding. But even though I have a circle that can cover more areas, I can't get reimbursement for any funding outside of that. So that's when we started talking to the counties and said, look, if you guys can come to the plate with us, a portion of what you would put in and a portion of what we would put in would go to the match of the state. That would have handcuffs, if you will, and how we can use it, but then it would open up the rest for us to be able to service anyone that basically is in this area. This particular network, I don't know if you have the numbers there, of the number of households that was served, but I don't know, it's substantial. So I wanted to kind of bring that up. The original project was to service 1,860 households. So if I went back, 1,860 households within those green census blocks up there. After protests, that came back to 581. And I can send this to you. We put together a one-pager that I guess we can get out to you guys if you want. But the network, so what the circles will actually cover, so once we build this network, we'll cover nearly 6,000 households. It's pretty substantial. We've been doing proof of concept, as I mentioned, in Nash County. We're kind of out of proof of concept now with them. Now we have customers on that network, but we're seeing speeds of over 50 meg, which is substantial, enough to do 2 or 3 Zoom calls and do what folks need to do. And then our fiber footprint is completely different. It's over a gig service. But again, our focus is to get service in the areas where people don't have anything or are underserved. So the network that we proposed is about a $3.8 million network that you see up here, these circles. It'll service about 6,000 customers. And the funding from the state will cover the 581 customers. So our goal, my kind of mission, just putting it out there, CloudWise itself, our investors have basically earmarked about $1.2 million per county that we will contribute to each of these networks as we move forward. The gap for this network is about 1.5, little more than 1.5. So we've come back and said, look, we'll put the 1.55 in. The county can come up, or the community can come up with the 1.2 million. So basically, the 1.2 that the community would put in would in turn get about a $4 million project in play. I think it's the last map that we have. This is just to kind of give you an idea of the other areas that we're working with. We're even having discussions with Pitt County right now too, on the areas around Greenville. This is where we intend to go. This is where we're contracted to go. We have an agreement from the state that they will help fund this, barring that we can work with the counties and the communities to get the funding on that side of the house. I know that was a earful.
My first question, so how much did Nash County pitch in for you to start asking?
Yeah, so that one started a little different, right? There was no great grant at that time. So we started an initial proof of concept testing out some new technology. That's what we're using here. That started out as about a $400,000 initial project just to get like 20 people online basically using this technology. They then rolled into phase 2, no, it's public. They then rolled into phase 2, and I believe phase 2 was about 1.5 million, or 1.2 million, I'm sorry, 1.2 million. And then we've recently moved into phase 3, and they've increased phase 3 from, I think, the original 1.2 million to about 1.5. And we also have received a great grant for Nash County as well. The state did a number on that one, more so than even here.
They got one thing on that side. A lot of people here in Tarboro have been asking me about CloudWise being inside the city limits. And I know when I originally heard it, we were talking about trying to get outside in the county areas who have no connectivity. So I'm asking because they're concerned that what we have now is not doing the job, but does that give the opportunity for CloudWise to be inside a city as well as outside of the county?
Absolutely. So I'll give you just a real quick kind of our model. So we're out of Wilmington, North Carolina. We had our own challenge when we started about 10 years ago there, where our business community wasn't served. We didn't have fiber, and we're in the cloud business, right? So not having access to quality internet was a problem there. So we built a network there. It's on its, whatever, 4th or 5th phase right now. But our model is that we would go into a community. We'd lay the railroad tracks, if you will, for internet service, and then we would layer services on top of that. That's really the problem that a lot of big incumbents have. Not that they're lacking money or anything, but the reason they don't go into rural is because it just doesn't make financial sense for them to do it. So our model, we go in and we can lay the railroad tracks, and we love the way that we're doing it because we're now partnering with the community. But our goal is to also layer these other services on top, you know, hosted services, email services, etc., and business services alike, because that gives us the extra revenue that we need in order to make the network sustainable. Because this is not inexpensive to run. Every tower you see costs us about $1,000 a month, you know, for the next at least 5 years. So to answer your question directly, we probably wouldn't not ever come into Tarboro. It's our plan to come into Tarboro. We just aren't going to go to the county and say, pay for us to come into an area that has plenty of fiber. We'll do that on our own. Same reason, right, we want Greenville. Same reason we want Asheville. Usually you have these pockets, you know, you have all the incumbents and fiber and all that access, and then it dwindles very quickly when you go out. So we would actually tie in Rocky Mount and probably Tarboro and probably one other city, because we tie back into fiber to give resiliency to our network, and then start selling those business services as well.
The protest period that you talked about, is that the opportunity that folks like Suddenlink and CenturyLink get their opportunity to say, we're already there, you're not needed, even though they're doing a shabby job? Are those the protesters you're talking about?
Yes, sir. We've been protesting on all of them. And it's, you know, it was normal when we did, like Halifax is a good example. We got protested in Halifax. It didn't really affect our network as much. That was the first round of Great Grant. I think once the incumbents saw us winning, they decided to dig in a little deeper. But Edgecombe and Nash got hit the hardest from the protest. I mean, almost a third.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, if I could sort of add to that line of question. Sean, with the network as you propose it, that could serve 6,000 homes, would there be some bleed over into Tarboro possibly?
I mean, I'm sure there would be. In fact, like I said, we would tie into Tarboro anyway. So that means that we're going to find, you know, existing fiber here, and then we'll immediately put our equipment in play at that location. You know, we look at tall buildings, you know, cell towers, etc. Those are easy because we only need like 2 or 3 customers to make them worth our while. It's when you get in the rural areas that we need more subscribers. But you know, I know you weren't a part of the design of the network. We designed it based off the data that we received, but some of the other counties that we're working with, you know, Greenville, Nash, Harnett County, you know, they legally can't design the network, but they can let us know where they believe there's issues, and we can make sure that there's coverage there. And we can have those. I know you were talking about commercial parks was a challenge. The other nice thing about this network is once it's built, there's pretty much unlimited access now above the trees. So if you did have a commercial park or you had someone, a distribution center or something like that going in 30 days I could get gig access there, no problem, even if fiber's 20 miles away. So it opens up some other opportunities too for the county from kind of a business development standpoint.
Anybody else questions?
One more.
Yeah.
When did the state reduce that number from 1860 to 581?
It was sometime in October, was that round? I think that was somewhere around there.
That's concerning to me, especially all of our children are going to, a majority of them are going to school virtually. I mean, that's 1,800 homes. And we're already talking about, we have 1,000 students here in Edgecombe County who don't have connectivity. So for them to reduce us down to that, I mean, that should cause a march by families who are suffering through this.
You know, CloudWise's position in this is changing rules takes a long time. You know, I mean, we started this process in 2014. It took me 4 years to get a general statute passed that made complete common sense. You know, our position in this is, look, we want to do the project. I think we should fight in between funding rounds, but not during. And that's kind of our position. We have lobbyists too that they're trying to help. Actually, 2 of them that we're working with. One's pro bono and one's on our dime. That's trying to help. And we will be fighting that. In fact, one of the big items, we talked about this earlier, is right now, it's basically anything 10 by 1, so 10 meg download, 1 meg upload, or under is considered underserved. Per the FCC, anything less than 25 by 3 is considered underserved. So we're trying to get the state to reduce that. If they do reduce it to be 25 by 3 and under is eligible, that actually brings a lot of these back into play. Now, I might not be the one standing up here, someone else could win it for Edgecombe County, but our hope is that, we would be the one to win it. We can actually start to get more funding in the project. So the good news about that, those census blocks could come back open for additional funding. We would have the infrastructure in place, and we would just be submitting really for the installation hardware. But we could start installs the next day almost if the network is in place.
Any other questions?
So if I could, Mr. Wiggins, just sort of bring it back to where that leaves us as a county. As you heard, there is now for this project a $1.2 million funding grant. It would be nice if we were in a place of the Nash County where we could fund that out of general funding. We're just not. Not that we don't have it, but we've got so many other priorities that are already knocking on our doors, some commitments that we've already made. That it would be very difficult for us to do that. I think at some point we should have some investment. I think the county should be a partner in this to some degree, but I don't know that we as a county can close that gap. There are some other counties that are using an option of USDA zero interest loan. It's called Red Leg loan. They refer to it. You have to access it through the electric co-ops across the Edgecombe Martin. There will still be some payback, obviously for that. And I think that's an option. I don't know at this point if it's a viable option. But I guess I was, would like to get some feedback from you all as to maybe some direction you'd like to at least have us to look into. I know without a doubt across the board, this is extremely important to Edgecombe County for our students and for lots of other reasons. And I just want to see, get some direction from you all as to maybe some options you'd like for us to explore.
If we were on the loan that you were talking about with USDA, would there be a payback from CalWise in terms of us, it being an investment, not necessarily a grant? Is he talking about grant, or are we talking about investment? What are you talking about?
Grant.
You're talking about grant.
We've got, like I mentioned.
But you do have investors.
Oh, no, absolutely.
So we could be an investor.
We have had that discussion. I don't think legally the county can be an equity investor in CloudWise. I'm pretty confident that that is the case. But if you had individuals in the county, as an example, that were interested in investing in the organization, obviously funding would go directly into Edgecombe County for the Edgecombe County project. I know we talked with a number of folks here. I've also been in discussion, the NCBCE. I presume everyone's kind of familiar with that group. They're focused on education. I know Edgecombe County is one of the groups that they have had discussions with. I called with them tomorrow, in fact. As well as the King Charitable Trust has interest, obviously, in Edgecombe County, and I'm working with them to try to get projects funded too. So I'm trying too on my side of the house, but really the commitment from our investors is, look, we'll put 1.2 in. The state's putting, whatever, I think just over $1 million in. Actually, we're putting 1.5 in. The state's putting over $1 million in. Can we get the county to contribute so there's a partnership there? That's kind of where we're at right now.
Well, I guess this is a continuing discussion. What's it? Any other feedback from the board?
I'd like to see us investigate, even if we have to borrow some of the money. This is something that, we just can't keep saying, it's going to get better, We've got to have some skin in the game. So if we have to borrow the money, I think we need to go ahead and let us know that we are interested in Edgecombe County, because our children are suffering, and we've got even staff who live in the county who can't connect. So that's hurting us as an organization and our school system. I think we really need to find out where we can find some funding, because we really need to make a point of letting them know we are interested, we're concerned. So we got to put our money where our mouths are.
Comments from the board? see if there's anybody out there that has a willingness to make an investment as you're doing. See if there are any other organizations that we can get. I have not heard any much support from us making a direct investment. I have not heard from the tariff. I have not heard, because it is an investment in the county of education, but as I see it, it's an investment for investors if we do that, okay? But we need to continue to look for the funding. It is a priority project for us. But where the funding is coming from, I guess, not hearing from only one board, it's still a question.
I certainly hope I'm not the only one that's getting complaints from constituents asking that question. If so, I've got the district with all the problems.
You're not.
Well, y'all mighty quiet, nobody saying anything.
I think we're getting the question. The other question is where's the money coming from, and how we pay it back. That is the question.
I know, but when he even asked for some direction, nobody wanted to say anything but the two of us.
I thought you said it real well.
And silence is better.
I got one follow-up question. Let's say we become invested in whatever we need. How affordable is it going to be for the folks we're serving?
Yeah, so affordability is a big part of this. I'll talk about two things associated with affordability. One, we have to keep our rates within what's reasonable. So we have packages that start at $39.95, and we have packages that go up to $200, depending on what you need, what you want. On the residential side, business is different, beast altogether. But it's very reasonable, and our goal is to keep our rates the same in every county. So from a commercial standpoint, whatever we do in Wilmington is what we're going to be doing in Edgecombe County, 10 miles away from the tower. So affordability is a challenge. That's why we keep fighting for us to have a lower package. In fact, when we submitted for Great Grant, started working with them, they wanted to put a threshold of the minimum package that we would be allowed to provide was like 50 meg. My response was, I'll offer a 50 meg package, but if someone can only pay $40 instead of $80, should I not service them as a customer? So we got that change to allow us to have a lower package. In fact, I'd like a 5 meg package, to be honest with you. That was $19.95. So our rates are reasonable, and the counties we work with have said that they are. And we have people signing up. We're trying to do about 10 to 15 installs a week that we're doing in Nash County. We try to do the same thing here. The second part of that is affordability is a problem everywhere, even if I'm in the middle of a metropolitan area. We are working to put a nonprofit together right now. That will be done on a per county level. I'm working with a couple groups, particularly United Way, to where we're going to put in a $25,000 seed per county. We're going to try to get the local groups to match that. And that funding would be able to subsidize broadband access. It doesn't have to be cloud-wise. It doesn't have to be in the county that we're in. It doesn't have to be cloud-wise. If it's CenturyLink or Suddenlink, I don't care. They can fill out the form. We're going to be doing it through a third party, and they can get some of that funding subsidized. My goal is that we'd be able to reduce it at least by 50%. So we are working on other programs. We look very much like a for-profit. We kind of built it that way, but we operate very closely to how a nonprofit operates.
So even if we come up with the investment and we move forward, how long would it be before the service would be available?
Yeah, so that's why we're here tonight, to be honest with you. We're planning our network build for 2021 right now. I would like to include Edgecombe County in that, which would mean we start construction in 90 days. We've been talking for just about a year now. We have the contract from the state. We have the commitment from the state to fund the project. But we also only have a two-year window to build it. If we don't build it in that, we get to forfeit the funding and give it back. We need to move quickly if we want to see the network built, to be honest with you. Edgecombe County gets to, I mean, whether this is a positive or negative, Nash County already started something, and we'd be building off of that. And like I mentioned, we're already very close to Rocky Mount, so we would start edging out, you know, as soon as Q2 of this year.
Any other comment? Any more questions? Thank you.
If you guys have any other questions, just fire over. Take care.
Public petitions, you said?
Yes, sir, Mr. Wiggins. I know we have our friends from West Edgecombe Baptist Church that are here tonight. They would like to make a presentation to the board.
Good evening, all. First thing, our name has changed since we were here last. We are now called One in Christ Ministry. We are now called this as we come to y'all tonight to let you know that we are praying for you. We keep supporting you. And this is part of our support for you all. We continue to appreciate your efforts to provide excellent leadership and decision-making for the county of Edgecombe. Our goal is to contact all churches in Edgecombe County who believe the Word of God, our Holy Bible, is pure and true. We will invite them to join in scripture prayer for you in Edgecombe County. Realizing this is a big undertaking and believe that God will provide the way and the increase. We want to thank you all for all that you do, and we want you to know that we support you wholeheartedly. I have a prayer for us. Our prayer tonight is from Joshua 1:8. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, that you shall meditate on it both day and night, that you may observe to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. All this things that we ask in Christ's name. Amen. And I have some gifts for you, but you know, we've been out here 3 or 4 times, and most time when you go somewhere 3 or 4 times, you expect a t-shirt. But we didn't get one, so we brought y'all something. And I won't give them to our commissioner, Don, and he can pass them out. And if there's anyone else besides the commissioners and the people here, you can give one to also.
So you can receive your care package from me after the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank y'all. And you get a sheriff one too, he's over here.
Anybody else?
I don't believe, is there someone else out there?
For public petitions?
Oh, okay. Oh,
Am I up?
yes, sir.
Right. Good evening. Before I get started, I want to say, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I can hear Commissioner Harris real good. I couldn't understand basically nothing the speaker was saying during the presentation. I can hear you a little and the county manager, but I can hear Commissioner Harris real good. But the rest of it, I couldn't hear. I understand what you're saying.
We didn't say that.
Well, I'm talking about the speakers. I called the one name, I thought.
Oh, okay.
All right, good evening. Happy New Year. I got about 6 concerns. I knew that came before the previous speaker because he needed to pray for me too.
But he has an appointment.
Okay.
You on public petitions.
Right, I understand.
It's a different time frame.
Okay, I understand that. I'm saying I will hear so you can pray for me too. But while the commissioner's meetings are not live streamed, the following is the option that the Edgecombe County School System have for their meetings. However, I have been told that the county has departmental meetings and others that are live streamed. I find it interesting that the citizens are not able to see your meetings via live stream. Why? And when I give you a copy of it, I did a copy and paste of Edgecombe County, what they have in their agenda. Okay, Edgecombe County Health Department. Why the county are not sharing information about the COVID like Nash County? We understand the HIPAA law, and I work on a public job, so I understand the HIPAA law quite well. And we are not asking for names, but other information such as demographics. And I think you know the other because you see what we put out there. I'm glad this board has taken over the EMS and purchased new vehicles. However, I find it interesting the person that was EMS director before the county took over resigned. Makes me wonder why. I found it interesting this board gave the EMS hundreds of thousands of dollars just last year, but the sheriff's office was given little to none. I find it interesting that Edgecombe County is known to hire family members within the county, but it's hard for blacks to get hired in the county, especially family members, so therefore when they go off to school, they do not return. Sources say it appears that if the county staff do not hold titles, that they are left out of important decisions that they feel they should have some input. Again, this year, when it came time to vote on the chair and the vice chair of this board, I find it interesting that obviously the females are overlooked. Did you hear it? Okay, I wanted you to hear that. Okay, okay, I feel that, again, this year, as I said, they were left out. Why is it this board has not elected a female chair and or vice chair over the years? Thank you for my concern, for allowing me to speak and voice my concern. Y'all have a good evening, and I'm going to leave the copies here, and you can pass them out. And I appreciate it. I'm going to give you this. And like I said, the acoustics is bad.
We'll get that.
It's just sad. I mean, I can't hear you. Thank you.
Is anybody else for public testimony?
I believe that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Other business, moving on, consider approval of budget amendment.
Yes, sir, Mr. Williams. I'd like to point out to a few budget amendments in the package. If you will flip through that. If you look at budget amendment number 1, the numbers at the top right corner of it, just want you to be aware that we did receive some additional Medicaid cost settlement for rescue services. This is because we were able to appeal what we received for FY15. I believe we only received around $40-something thousand. We're able to, the consultants we have helping us with that, went back and appealed that, and we were able to receive some additional funding. So that is to appropriate that. If you turn to number 4, budget amendment number 4, I think I mentioned to you at your last meeting that in the budget amendment that you approved that appropriate lines, several lines for bringing in EMS services in-house. We did not, at that budget amendment, estimate collections from private insurance, Medicaid, Medicare for the remainder of the fiscal year. So we're using very conservative estimates on that. We're estimating $500,000 for the remainder of this fiscal year. So that is to appropriate that estimated revenue from collections for the remainder of the year. Budget amendment number 5. This is for LS Cable, incentive agreement for LS Cable, we may know as Superior Essex. You may recall back in 2011 when they did a significant expansion and job creation there, we and the town of Tarboro entered into an incentive agreement with the company that 50% of their taxes, once paid, would be returned for a 10-year period. When we got that request from them, I realized that we had not budgeted that in this current fiscal year, so the 167 is 50% of the taxes that they have paid for this past tax year. If you go to budget amendment number 7, I do want to point out that we did discover that we have another penalty from the Internal Revenue Service. This is due to the late filing of W-2s for calendar year 2018. We just got that notice a couple weeks ago, and due to that, there is a penalty of $34,300. There, in addition to that, this past July 2020, our payroll was submitted late. We had some illness in the office and some other things going on. We have already appealed that. They have allowed for appeals, and we have appealed that. We're waiting to see what the response. We also feel like there may be an opportunity to appeal the 2018 W-2 penalty, but we do need to go ahead and pay both of those. If the appeal is successful, they'll simply pay us back and credit us that. But we need to pay that so that it won't accrue any more interest on that. Those are all the budget amendments. I'm happy to answer any question about those or any of the other budget amendments.
So we get a motion and a question from you.
My question is, there was 7,000 penalties for not filing W-2s, and that was because someone was sick?
No, the July 20 payroll taxes that are filed for that, quarterly taxes that are filed for that is due to staff illness and some other circumstances.
Any other questions on it? Hearing none, the motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Question. All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye. All opposed? Hearing none, is approved. One on for 7B.
The next item is regarding the Governor's Crime Commission grant from the Sheriff's Office. Sheriff Atkinson plans to apply to the North Carolina Department of Public Safety Division of Governor's Crime Commission under the Criminal Justice Systems Improvement Program. The grant request is in the amount of $24,500 to purchase a license plate reader. The grant does not require a match. I recommend that you approve the grant application as presented.
Motion. Second.
Second.
Question.
Question, is that for one machine?
I believe so. I believe it's one machine. Yes, sir.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, it is approved. Next.
The next is regarding a proposed ordinance related to firearms. Sheriff Atkinson has asked that you take in consideration the attached draft ordinance related to firearms. As you know, we've had some complaints from citizens regarding incidents involving the discharge of firearms. The ordinance will put in place protective measures and a means of enforcement. I do recommend that you call for a public hearing to be held at your February meeting to receive public input. Sheriff Atkinson is here tonight. I don't know if he wants to make any comments, but certainly have any questions.
Any questions? Come on. Any questions from the audience?
Oh.
Any questions from the board? Go ahead.
No, I would like for the sheriff to just quickly tell us what this is going to give him the power to do. And short and simple, help me out.
Short and simple, to keep the citizens safe.
Okay, but we had 2 instances in the past year of people that have complained.
Yeah.
Would it help those 2 people that
It's going to help them to keep them safe, and it's going to help us enforce this ordinance. We've had people, homes getting shot into. We have livestock that has been shot, and livestock people are real protective of livestock. So we've had several calls. And what I did together with Mr. Evans, and I prompted about 10 other counties that had, and Michael Peters, 10 other counties, and try to put together an ordinance that will help our Edgecombe County community. I think it'll work for us if we just give it a chance. I think we need it.
Do you know whether the town has it or not?
Not sure, to answer your question, but I'm pushing countywide for this ordinance. We need it.
3 streets from my house.
Yeah, we need it, and it'll give our deputies a shot to go in and charge people who violate this ordinance.
Is this a new ordinance for us? Do we have a problem with discharge ordinance? We don't have one.
No, we have a noise ordinance. That's all that we have, but this is much needed. We receive a lot of calls, and all our deputies can say is, hey, they're shooting in a safe direction, they're not shooting late at night. And I'm telling you, this would scare me to death if I was out in the county and didn't have this in place. And it's all about just keeping people. The calls that we normally get People are shooting and these rounds are not accountable for the rounds that they're shooting. Now, we're not talking about hunting, we're just talking about people that are playfully just shooting guns at any old time of the night and day. That's what we're dealing with. So hunters, will a lot of times, you know, they know the laws, they know what's expected. And once they get out of line, we contact the game wardens for that. But we're talking about reckless shooting any and every day around East County.
Mr. Peters, you review this?
Yes, sir.
You all right?
Yes, sir. Sheriff Atkinson did a lot of research at other counties. We studied those county ordinances and worked with Mr. Adams to try to come up with one that covered what he needed.
Motion?
So moved.
Second. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye. All opposed, hearing none, we have an ordinance.
Have a public hearing. We have a public
No, we got
hearing.
to call public hearing. We got to call the public hearing still. The motion is to call the public hearing for the next meeting, right?
Yes, sir.
That's my motion, yes, sir.
Second. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye. All opposed, the public hearing is called for our next meeting. Next, Mr.
Item D is regarding change order for flood mitigation at the courthouse. We have HG Reynolds Company Incorporated under contract to perform FEMA-funded flood mitigation work at the courthouse. Presented for your approval is change order number 1 to add 3 items needed that were not included in the original specification. The proposed change order adds $11,691 for a total contract cost of $752,506. I recommend that you approve the change order as presented.
Motion. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye. All opposed, hearing none, it is approved. Number E.
Item E is a second change order for HG Reynolds. This is regarding mold mitigation at the courthouse. They are currently in the contract for mold mitigation. As you know, presented for your approval is change order number 3 to add stabilization and protection of newly installed dehumidifiers, which was not included in the original scope. The proposed change order adds $6,385 for the total contract cost of $576,303. I recommend that you approve the change order as presented.
Motion.
So moved. Second.
Question. All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye. All opposed, hearing none, it is approved. Appointments. Rockmart Board of Adjustment, we have none, nobody recommended. I will propose to Planning Council Development, nobody recommended. Tourism Development Authority, Ms. Candace Owen is recommended. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye. All opposed? Hearing none. Appointed. EMS Advisory Board. You see your slate. There are 2 that are not recommended at this time. Is there a motion to appoint the slate?
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye. All opposed? Hearing none. For the appointment of Ems Services Board, Dr. Glenn Knight is recommended. The motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Questions? All in favor, let it be known. Known by vote sign aye. All opposed? Hearing none. She is appointed. Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Ms. Juliette Ms. Jones is recommended for the appointment. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye. All opposed? Hearing none. She is appointed. After list and release for review and approval. Mr. Evans, anything you brought to the board's attention?
No, sir. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Motion to approve. Is there a motion? Second.
Second.
Questions? All in favor, let it be known by the vote sign aye. All opposed? Hearing none. It is approved. Department report for review. Mr. Evans, anything you brought to the board's attention?
I would like to revisit a discussion we had. As you know, we had someone to present at the meeting last month that raised some complaint regarding the time it took to have service installed. And so, first of all, I want to take this opportunity to ask Mike to stand to officially introduce him at this meeting tonight as our newly appointed assistant county manager. He's wearing two hats, two big hats, and he's still serving functions of our utilities director. We had that position posted.
Congratulations.
And so, Mr. Matthews and I had some conversation about that, and we talked a little bit at last month's meeting. It's a balance of having staff enough available to get these new services installed timely, only bringing in outside contractors when we absolutely have to because of the cost of that. We have done that. That's helped them to catch up some on that. And so the plan is worked out is for us to have a goal of getting those new services in within 30 days. So I'll let Mike talk a little bit about how he handles that, how we will be handling that moving forward.
Good evening. So what we're trying to do is we want to move from where we were typically saying 30 to 45 days. Our goal now is 20 to 30 working days. Assuming there's no hiccups, weather conditions or anything, we typically can turn one around within 2 weeks. Most of the parts we keep on hand. However, there are some parts that we don't keep on hand. Just kind of give you a really, really quick breakdown of what happens. Let's just say somebody wants a new tap and the water line's in front of their house is a 12-inch water line. We typically stock 12-inch saddles that are 3/4 inch and 1 inch. And we sometimes will keep 2 inch. We just don't put in a lot of 2-inch taps. Since I've been here, we probably put in 15 in 15 years, so probably 1 a year. So we don't readily keep that on hand. We have to order those parts. If somebody comes in with 1.5 inches, we very rarely keep any 1.5 inch stuff on stock. With the way everything is going right now with COVID, it's every bit of a 2 to 3 week lead before we can get those parts in. Brass has just gone through the roof as far as the cost, and the time frame to get all of that stuff in is just crazy right now. Where we used to, we could turn it around in a week. It's taking 2, 3, sometimes even 4 or 5 weeks, depending on what we're ordering. Most of the parts we do have on hand, when we do, we certainly try to get those pushed forward. Another great example of what we're looking at, with the amount of rain that we've had in the past 3 to 4 days, I personally will not let my guys get into a ditch. I'm just not going to let them until at least Wednesday or Thursday. Even though things have stopped raining and the ground is starting to dry out, when you start to dig, you're putting somebody's life in there. And I just refuse to do it. Not right now. I say that to say that we do try to make it safe. We do have all the equipment in place for it to be safe. And our guys are properly trained so that they know what they're going when they get in a hole. However, they still are getting in a hole. And we have to make sure that everything we're doing, that they go home every day too. So with that being said, that is our new goal, is to have 20 to 30 day turnaround. And so far, we have met that goal. Ever since the last commissioner meeting, we implemented that. We have had 5 taps come in, new services come in. Right now, actually we've had 6. We had 3 installed before we left for Christmas. And 1 came in right before we left for Christmas break. That one has already been called in and is ready to be put in probably the next week. The remaining 2 that we have not installed yet, one we were ordering 1.5 inch parts because we did not have any in stock. The other is actually on New Hope Church Road, and it is the location of where this tap is going to be an issue. Because we have water line, sewer line that we're having to go across, and we've only got about a 2-foot span. If you've ever seen us, when we say shoot a tap, basically what we're doing, we're shooting a mold up under the road, and we're hoping that it goes straight where we're headed. Out there in that area is running sand. And so if you've ever had a 100-pound mold in your hand, it's this long, this big around, it has a mind of its own when it gets in the running zone. So it's a little more difficult. We only run into that maybe once every year or two, so it's not often. But just want to kind of give you an update of where we are on our taps. We are not behind by no more than 3 or 4 weeks right now at best. And that is the only one that's in that one is the one I was just referring to.
I think the most important question was communications. And that if we've got those issues with the people that are, the customers that are requesting these services, I think if we communicate with them in terms of a timetable or the holdup, then I think we can cut down on the complaints. The main thing, but I got out a lot of our discussion was we're not communicating. And if we can do that better, I think we can solve a lot of the, I think it's understandable if what's going on, if we don't have the supplies and can't get them, it's understandable to a contractor, okay? Because they're probably going to run into some of the same issues with it, but what they are with, but they could communicate with them. That would be my request, okay?
Mr. Autry had said it'd taken 45 work days, 9 weeks, and no one had called it back in some of that period of time.
That's their communication.
That's the communication. I think I agree with the chairman.
Just to kind of go off on that, I mean, it's everything I'm telling you is always going to be an excuse. Everything it is always just an excuse. But in his particular scenario that he was bringing up, that was about the time that I'm not supposed to release, I'm not going to circulate his name or anything, but we had a valid code that went through our department in the field, which put us short. We only have one operator and one guy that's trained to be an operator. We got really behind. Normally, we only put in 25 to 30 taps a year. Since January of last year to September of last year, we put in over 50. I don't know if everybody got the stimulus money. The first round, we decided to put in a water tap. We had a ton of taps coming in about a 7-8 month span, more than what we're typically used to. In this particular case, we ended up hiring a contractor who came in and put in approximately 20 taps for us. They catch us back up after all of that received. So again, it's nothing more than an excuse, and we should have done a better job.
And I think what you were telling me, there was no communication at that time. And that's the request. If in fact we got those issues, communicate. That's the only, you know what I'm saying? I think that will cut down on whatever criticism we get.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. Anything else within the Department of Enforcement?
You have financial summary report and have answered questions if you have. I would like to invite Caroline Chappelle, our health director, comes to the podium. We want to talk about an update for COVID-19. While she's on her way, you have your monthly report, weekly report actually that I typically send. I would like to update those numbers. These were last Thursday, I believe. As of today, global cases 85.5 million, a little over 1.8 million deaths worldwide. Here in the county is our latest update today, 3,274 positive cases. We have 89 deaths, and now we have 243 active cases. And so just wanted to update those numbers. Of course, they're updated daily. You see in there where we are with our current operational status. We are still primarily closed to the public with the exception of collections, DMV, water and sewer here in this building. Health department clinic is open, dental services. We did open today our tax assessor's office on the 3rd floor during the listing period. For those who just need to turn in listing forms, can bring those. We are asking that folks that need to appeal real estate or have business personal property listing to make an appointment. So we're trying to accommodate that, but still be cautious as well. So just wanted to point those couple of things out. So I'll turn it over to you.
It's been a long time since March the 16th, the last time that I presented for you about this new thing called COVID-19. never did I anticipate that here we would be in January and we would still be, it would still be causing havoc on the country and our county. One thing I wanted to add to his numbers, for the month of September, October, November, and I'm sorry for December, I didn't have time to calculate that today. We averaged 24 cases a day here in Edgecombe County. We are still testing, partnering with Ems Services. That's a group that the state has a contract with, and I passed out the dates that they're going to be in principal and time talks before the meeting. Put it at your station. And then there's also, you can go to clinics and get tested. We're not going to be testing, at least for the month of January, and that's because we are now responsible for giving the COVID vaccine out to our citizens here in Edgecombe County. In the email that I got from Mr. Evans, he said that he had put the schedule in your packet. That was really nice, but it's already out there. It got updated Sunday. So I didn't bring an updated copy, but I'll be glad to, I think, yeah, you wouldn't have put the Sunday one. Yeah, it changed. As a matter of fact, some changes happened as early as today. But anyway, we are working very hard. We're going to start giving our, we got Moderna. We've got 800 doses of Moderna at the health department. We're going to start Wednesday at 9 a.m. We have Wednesday and Thursday about 50 appointments each day that we're going to be giving to the group that is considered 1A in our group. So
1A is what?
1A is basically healthcare workers, paramedics, long-term care facilities, group homes, and then starting on Monday, we'll hopefully be able to open up to 1B, which will include anyone 75 years or older, and some additional ones in the group.
The health department will be doing those?
Yes, we'll be doing those along with hopefully by multi-specialty clinic. We'll be doing some, and we hope some of the drugstores will get some vaccine, as well as OIC and Freedom Hill.
So those are 75 for the public. When it gets to the public, the health department will be doing it.
Oh, we're doing it now. Yeah, we're starting Wednesday with giving to the select group of 1A.
Karen, reading this, it says other healthcare providers, clinics, hospitals will receive their vaccine directly for staff in long-term care facilities will be done by private providers.
Yes.
Contracted by the state.
Well,
Just
what
say
we
y'all
will-
will be doing.
Yes, they will be doing Walgreens and CVS. I think got the contract to do the long-term care facilities. We'll be doing the group homes. And everybody that was in 1A, we mailed a letter or contacted them personally, everybody, because we had a list of who was to get it in our care.
Did you have enough vaccinations for everybody?
We do have enough, yes. And what the state is recommending, that those 800 doses are to be given out as first-time doses that they promise us we'll be getting the second round in 28 days to go back and revaccinate.
Now, is it voluntary for your
Yes.
staff or mandatory that they take the
It is
vaccine?
It's voluntary and nobody holds liability. The company, the health department, or anyone, if something happens. But it's not mandatory, and I don't think it should be.
But what, see, I'm kind of on the fence about it because should we have people from the community who have to interact with the health department, and we find out that staff refuse to take the vaccine, and something should happen, where does that put us?
So you're saying with that, if a staff member got it or interacting with a community member?
She said if a staff member gave it to a community.
They refuse to take the vaccine, and in an interaction with somebody from the community.
I need help with that because that's a legal matter.
Let me start with this way. I think, and I've had some discussion, I think that's a board decision in terms of, you help me, in terms of whether we would make that mandatory.
For employees.
for the employees, and we have not made that decision.
Oh, see, that's what I was asking. I didn't know he had anything to do with it, that's why.
We're in terms of policy, it's ours, I think. Go ahead, Elvin, go ahead, Mr. Peters.
Yes, sir, I agree with that. And Ms. Harris, to address your question, if you'd like me to now, the guidance we've been given is that the county would not have any liability if a county employee chose not to be vaccinated and someone else claimed that they got sick from that county employee. And the short reasoning behind that is it's going to be impossible to prove how any of us get sick or where we get sick.
And you know, like as well as flu, we don't make that mandatory, you know, so. But the other thing that we get calls about every day, you know, with the part of contact tracing, you know, and we participate in that. We have another group that the governor appointed, that they pay for this to do contact tracing for Edgecombe County, but we also do some of it. But you know, when a person calls you and says, Karen LaChapelle reported you that she's COVID positive, and she reported that you were in the house with her. But that person also went to Walmart, also went to church on Sunday, also went several other places. And they got it. You don't know that they got it from Karen LaChapelle. You don't know where it came from. So, you know, I don't know how that could be.
It would be difficult, so.
But you have to prove that that's where you got it from. That's the difficult part.
Well, I guess another question could be
If you know where you got it from, you wouldn't have got it.
well,
Exactly.
if the staff doesn't get vaccinated, then they're subject to get sick, and they are subject to be out of work, and it can disrupt our operations.
Right,
That's another concern we have.
right.
Well, here's another way. You're not guaranteed if you take the vaccine, you're not going to get the COVID.
That's the thing.
Yeah, no, people take the flu shot and get to it.
And you don't.
I thought it was 95% effective.
Yeah, but for how long?
On your stream.
What if I'm that tough one that it doesn't work on?
Right.
So you don't try, even if it's 95%. I mean,
You can.
So I asked that question because I've asked, you know, people in the community, I have young friends that I've been surprised who have never taken a flu shot, refused to take a flu shot, so they've said, of course, they're not going to take the vaccine. And I've tried to convince them that they need to take the flu shot and the vaccine if it becomes available because of the line of work that they're in, you know. But you can't convince some people. There's a lot of people right here in Edgecombe County who are going to refuse to take it.
and we need a certain percent to get herd immunity.
Well, we get close, we ought to get pretty good at it. We ought to be getting close to herd immunity.
Well, we should. If we've had this many confirmed cases, that means there's 10 times as many people
Yeah.
that have had it there
Yeah.
asymptomatically.
Exactly
We
right.
probably have 25,000 citizens who've actually had it when you extrapolate the numbers.
So I just want to make sure that you all hear a decision from my perspective. Certainly, we're doing a number of things to try to protect staff and so that comes in contact with our staff, including now making that's mandatory. There's a higher level of PPE requirements for employees in the health department that have direct contact with COVID or potentially COVID positive patients. And so we're doing that. They're abiding by that. We wrestle with this. Every county in this state, every county in this nation is wrestling with the same thing because it is a very delicate balance between if this vaccine is going to be effective, it won't be until people take it. But it's also, you know, for me as a manager sitting here, I find it difficult to say to an employee, you have to take this, something that is so new. And so we've landed on the position at this point to not make it mandatory. Certainly we take direction from this board. If you all choose that we go in a different direction, we'll certainly abide by that. That would be my recommendation at this point. So Karen and her staff, this is as she just pointed out, I printed this out Thursday and put it in the agenda packet for you on Wednesday, I think it was. And the state has adjusted already because there's also a balance of the availability of this vaccine. So now they're trying to give the green light on phase 1B. It's a lot of 75-plus-year-old folks in our county and across the state. This is a two-part vaccination process. And so there's the logistics of it. So this is all very fluid. certainly we're gonna look at all the best information that we have and make the best decision we possibly can at that given time.
And you said you received which vaccine?
Moderna, it's the one you take 28 days.
That's the first round.
Go ahead, Mr. West.
First round.
It'll be Moderna the whole time, we hope.
Oh, okay. It's every 28 days.
You can't give Moderna and Pfizer. If you get Moderna initially, you gotta take Moderna the second time.
Karen, this may help a little bit in our thinking somewhat, and I'm not correct that most, like hospital systems, the vital system, they're not requiring their employees to take it. They do require the flu shot,
They do require.
but they do not require the COVID
Right.
vaccination. I mean, to me, that
Yeah.
that it parallels a little bit as to what our thinking should be like. I mean, I know whatever the thought is, we want everybody to be safe.
Right.
We want our employees to be safe, so that both the employees and our community's interest, which is everyone, is safe, but I don't know how you do that.
Well, you know, one of the things I do think has worked, but people have to do it, is wear your mask, wash your hands, keep your hands off your face, like when people mess with your mask. You know, use hand sanitizer often. Stay home as much as possible, and if you go out, make sure you practice the social distancing. And if you're sick, stay home. You don't know how many people call us after, or when we call them. Not sure if you realized it, but every positive case that has been in Edgecombe County, we have touched base with them some way. Every one of these 3,274 people, we have touched base with them. Some people don't answer their phones now, but they'll get a letter from us telling what to do, and then they'll call and say, well, so you're saying I have to stay home for 10 days? Yes, you do. Or you know, you were in contact with somebody, but I had a negative test. You still have to be quarantined for 14 days, regardless, because some people have developed signs and symptoms on day 13 or 14 after they were exposed to a person. It's, you know, do those things, and if you're diagnosed, you need to contact everyone that's been around you and let them know that they need to be tested 5 to 7 days after their exposure, not immediately after, 5 to 7 days, because the virus has to get in your system. And the most important thing, and I know I get a lot of phone calls from people who say my industry is not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I get a whole lot of those calls. And myself and Chief Webb from Town of Tarboro toured a company and went in, and I was impressed at what that company was doing. But I was not impressed with the employees wearing their masks like this, or wearing their masks like this. I mean, it's like right now I can't really see through my glasses because, you know, it fogs up. Or, you know, when they turn and take the mask off. Or they had it set up so that you were good 8 feet apart from everybody. But what they were all standing all clustered together. And so when I got the next phone call saying we still got COVID in our plant, I asked them about that. And they went, oh. And then there's been some other plants and some other staff that visited with the same thing has happened. I feel like the plants are doing the best they can, but the employee has to take personal responsibility.
Can you tell me what the steps are now that you bring it up? Because I call you all the time.
Yeah, you did. And I appreciate it. That's how I know what the community's thinking on.
I guess I'll have to get on social media, people will call. But anyway, what are the steps that an industry has to go through? One of the questions, the last question was, we heard that so-and-so was COVID. Well, but the company didn't tell us anything about it. What are they supposed to do? They find out an employee.
That's a personnel issue, number one. But the thing the company has to do, as we have to do as a county here, is to ensure the safety of our employees. And we've done that. I think we've gone above and beyond in doing that with our county. But when a person is positive, you know, they need to let the person around them know that they were positive, I feel like. And that's what we've done. But most of the staff that I supervise have been okay with us contacting the people around them to let them know that they were positive. But, you know, the companies just have to provide the shields and the PPE that they do provide.
So they don't have to alert the employees that someone in the plant has a virus?
They can do that, but they shouldn't identify the person.
They're not required to, is that what you're saying?
They're not, no, they don't have, they can't identify the person unless the person gives you that permission.
But they should let the employees know that we had the
They
test.
should, yeah,
It's not law.
no.
What?
It's not law.
Should be.
But, you know, and like with restaurants, we get calls, and our environmental supervisor, Melanie Hudson, has gone out and done several interviews with restaurants and found that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. But when you go and see employees like this,
In a restaurant, they should be wearing them?
restaurant workers, yes.
I'm trying not to call you this time.
Yeah,
You can call me.
I'm very solid on that one too.
You have my direct line. There was a couple of other things I wanted to go over, if that's okay. I want to give some data. The numbers that I'm given are not equal to what Mr. Evans has given you tonight. This is from the state that I'm giving you. Anything that is what you can find on the web page. But I thought that I would give it. So this one is saying as of, this report came out the end of December, that we had 3,181 cases, 81 deaths, but we have had 89 unpositive for that. But this data just has not come up. Of those 81 deaths, from 0 to 74, 36 individuals accounted. And 70, over 45, 75 plus. Women in Edgecombe County have had more COVID than men, but more men have died of COVID. The race that has had the most COVID cases and COVID deaths have been whites. Blacks or African Americans come in second. Whites have had 45 deaths with 1,363 cases, and blacks or African Americans have had 28 deaths or 1,253 cases. Then we've had others, which is, they didn't give their gender or data as some other race. There's been 395, and then we had some others. Any questions?
Any questions? Any more questions? Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, I got one question.
Go ahead.
Not the school system is trying to determine when the kids are going back to school. Are you do they contact the health department when they are trying to make that decision? Or they got people coming up Wednesday night?
Dr. Bridges and I talk quite often.
Okay.
And the other thing I wouldn't tell you, if you see any of our health department, public health staff, tell them they're doing a great job, because they are. I don't have anybody complaining about the hours and the extra times that they work. They're doing a great job. It's been stressful, but you've got an awesome public health department.
Thank you. Ms. Evans, you have more comments?
No additional comments regarding that.
Mr. Manager, move on.
Before I get into planning inspections update, I'm going to share Axon is here. Also, I'd like to share, if you want to come to the podium. And as you know, I guess now a couple of years ago, we looked at how we could address his need of picking up the pace on replacing his fleet. We had an aging fleet, a lot of the shop. And so we explored a couple of options of purchasing some, leasing some, borrowing money to purchase. So we went the route of, we borrowed some money, we purchased, I can't remember, Cheryl, 22?
Yes, sir.
So we're paying debt service on that. Now, debt service on that is around $125,000. So we try to appropriate each year. We have done this for a number of years now, $250 total in his capital outlay for vehicle replacement. So the balance of that, so the 125, has been set aside the last couple of years to purchase outright, however many we can.
Other than, from that point, from that time on, okay, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So we're paying debt service on 22 that we bought, and then from that 250 in the
When
balance.
does the debt service expire?
I'm sorry.
When does it end, the debt service?
I think we got another 3 years.
Go ahead.
And we got another 3 years on that.
Right.
So, that's been a good plan, but it just has been able to catch up to a pace that you can get close to getting, reliable vehicles for sheriff on the road. And so what we've done is, I had some conversation about going back to the drawing board, looking at possibly leasing some vehicles. We're looking over some numbers now from a lease company where we feel like we can come close to being able to lease maybe 10 vehicles. I think it is, Sheriff, to include the upfit of that. We may need some additional funds to cover some of the upfit, the upfront or one-time upfit cost of these vehicles. But I think I do understand, I do support the Sheriff in trying to find a resolution to this issue. And so, Sheriff, I'll let you just talk about.
Why not think about an extension of the loan we buy? Of the debt service that we've done.
To go out and borrow some additional money?
An extension of the debt service that we have to just buy those vehicles. Let's look at the options on it, okay? And let's take it to, I'm gonna let you speak, sir.
How you find, Mr. Evans, you said it in a mouthful. What I'm facing, guys, is, and I really agree, what I'm facing is I'm in the process of hiring 3 more deputies, and we're in a good position. Within the next 2 months, it'll put us down from having 1 deputy short in Edgecombe County. That's quite our awesome, man, of the service that we're providing. However, I'll be down to 1 spare vehicle. And with operator error, people hitting us, we running off the road. I mean, it happens. We're down to 1 spare vehicle, and I'm in a tough spot. And so to get patrol vehicles, even if we approve something tonight, it'll take 4 or 5 months to land patrol vehicles in the Edgecombe County outfit. And that was my fear 3 years ago when I stood up before you guys, running a fleet. Last time I got a phone call, real brief, I'm done, because you said it in a mouthful, Mr. Evans. You got my lead K9 guy, he's fairly active. He's got $225,000 on his K9 vehicle that we got surplus 3 years ago from state surplus, so we try to budget those funds. But it's $225,000, and so my lead K9 guy is out of the vehicle. So that's what's starting to happen with all 4 of my K9 vehicles. All over 160,000. We're pushing about 8 charges that are pushing about 180, 190,000. And that old fleet is catching up to me once again from 2017, 2018. So you said it in a nutshell. We were requesting 10 vehicles. One of the things that's happening around the nation, Dodge Chargers are good for flying up and down the road like state troopers, but we do so much more than a state trooper. We're off-road, we're down dirt paths. So we're looking at getting some F-150s and some Ford Explorers, leasing them, and they got a higher resale value. So we're just trying to be more creative in what funding that I do have with $125,000. And all I can get out of that 125 is maybe 3 or 4 Dodge Chargers, where if I can lease, I can get 10 vehicles, and this is immediately.
That's 125?
Yes, sir. That's what I have left to play with.
Listen.
Would leasing make any sense with the number of miles they put on the vehicle?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Well, one of the things, we're in conversation, if he can up that lease, it up the mileage. So that's one of the conversations we was talking to Enterprise Leasing about, if they can increase that mileage on that lease vehicle.
But then if you lease it and the sale value with the number of miles on it would be.
And Commissioner, I'll say this. Well, how we running these cars down at the end of that mileage, they're no good anyway. They're absolutely no good. They won't resell for nothing.
So I thought we had a plan 3 years ago. We looked at lease and we decided it didn't make sense financially.
Right.
We went in and bought the vehicles. I thought the fleet was going to be replaced over a 3-year to 4-year period of time, constantly rotating, as long as we were funding 125 a year. Why not use the exact same plan and just increase the number of units in the plan? Because what we went through and did all this financial analysis before that, those numbers haven't changed. So why wouldn't we just increase the number of units and use the same plan?
One of the things that has changed, when we did that analysis, we were looking at the time, replacing with sedans, with the Dodge Chargers. And as Sheriff was talking about, he feels like that SUVs, trucks would be more serviceable to him. They're more expensive. And so we won't be able to replace as many on that plan going forward.
So we're buying more expensive vehicles.
That's right.
Because we're buying more expensive vehicles, we're not able to do the fleet as planned.
That's right.
Also, if we're leasing, most of the time we would not own the asset at the end of the lease.
That's right.
So we're investing money, we're basically financing the money with the leasing company. We might as well finance the money to own the vehicles ourselves, do a blend between expensive vehicles and what we originally planned.
Well, why don't we do it this way? Discuss it with the budget committee, as we normally do, okay? Let's say those options, discuss it with the budget committee, and let's see what we can come up between now and next month.
And if I could add one last thing, and Commissioner, you're right, one of the things that, to add what you're saying, my fleet was in such bad shape. We're past that now, but it was in such bad shape that instead of having 22, I needed 42. And that so those cars, they're breaking down right now. So that was part of my issue, that in 2018, I needed to do a whole complete fleet.
Well, I thought we had a plan that we were going to get a whole new fleet within over a 2 to 3 year period. So you should by now have a new fleet based on our plan. So we'll look at it.
Thank y'all for listening.
I know we're looking at having a budget committee meeting later this month, so we'll have some information right there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
At your last meeting, you asked that we review our inspection fee, re-inspection fee, as well as those for surrounding counties for your discussion at this meeting. Just to let you know, currently if the contract calls for inspection and the work fails to meet the standards of the appropriate state code, a fee of $75 is charged. If the work fails at the second inspection, a $150 fee is charged. Pitt County also charges $75 to re-inspect if the initial inspection fails. Nash County does not charge a fee if the initial inspection fails and the first re-inspection fails. Re-inspections beyond that are at a fee of $75 per inspection. Similarly, Wilson County allows an initial inspection and one re-inspection at no cost with a subsequent re-inspection at $25. I know that the gentleman came at last month's meeting, raised that as an issue, but I would say that due to the cost that's incurred by the county to inspect and re-inspect work for general contractors and licensed tradesmen, I recommend that we maintain our current fee schedule for re-inspections. But I am open to discussion or questions if you have on that.
My only question is, I'm assuming that when they come and get their first inspection, that they're meeting state requirements, and they know what the requirements are. So when they fail, it's something that they just do double. Is that fair assumption?
You're right. As a licensed general contractor or as a licensed trades person, I guess you should say, they should know what it takes to pass that inspection first go around.
That license gives them, so they should have the knowledge to know what's going to be required.
What's required to pass that.
It falls back on them to personal responsibility.
That's correct. And the same it's the same across the state. These are state building code, it's not anything specific to Edgecombe County. So, it costs our staff, these inspectors have to go back out a second time to re-inspect. I also wanted to, in addition to that, we talk about the building inspector. So, we have a building inspector one, a full-time building inspector one, who's employed with the county now. You can become a building inspector one with the county with no experience. This is typically the entry level for a building inspector. They come in, they start their training, they go out and they work alongside our licensed, fully certified building inspector. And so he's been, I guess, building inspector for about a year now. He's got provisionals and I believe it's in building and plumbing, so there are some things that he can expect himself. He's working toward getting his level ones across the board. It's a long time process to get someone certified, but that's our goal with him. He's off to a great start. He's doing a really good job. We also have 2 part-time building inspectors that are fully certified across the board. We stagger their time here. Typically, each of them are here 2 days, each separate days. One of them does work full-time for another locality, so he comes in and works after 5 o'clock when he's scheduled to come in. We have asked the other building inspectors, Ems Ray Hardy. He has agreed to give us a 3rd day when needed, so we'll have some additional coverage. And so I have gone back at your direction. I know you would like, and I think the most optimal situation for us to have is an county employee full-time is fully certified. And so we have posted, again, our building inspector 2 position. The salary range on that is from $45,876 to $75,315. We just posted that about a week ago or so. So we'll see if we get invites on that. And again, our goal is to have 2 certified, at least 1 fully certified, at least a level 3 across the board here, full-time employee. I will say I certainly sympathize with the complaint that the gentleman registered last month, but I have not gotten any complaints about building inspectors for quite some time now. So I know Tina and her staff have been working very hard to make sure that they cover those bases with our building inspections.
Can I address that one moment, because I was the one that kind of started this thing, say that everything Mr. Archer said was correct, and I believe it was correct. I've been blasted many times about building inspection, some of his customers, actually. But sometimes you react instead of acting, and my point was really, whatever we need to do, I don't care what it costs, let's get a building inspector we can keep and pay whatever we gotta pay. That's my point more so. I know we have a full-time building inspector, but let's keep him if we can. If money will keep him, we need to keep getting money up there. Because in the past, I've had people tell me things that just were hard to believe, and I'm assuming that's better now, like you said. But, some of the things about returning phone calls, that's inexcusable. I'm on my 7th contract to try to build a building in my backyard. And they're the same way. But what they're complaining about, they don't call you. But I don't want to be like them. I want to be better than them. So, you can pick up the phone and call somebody and say, don't let me lie to you, I'll be there in a month. But my point was, I assume you have the latitude, let's pay people so we can keep, at least in that, we're at a crucial spot of needing people to inspect. Hopefully we stay that way. So that was really kind of where I wanted to go. Because I knew we had a building inspector, he's been here over a year, right? And I hope we can hold on to that young man. And if money will do it, then we have a responsibility to do it. But I guess you have the attitude.
And do we set a certain amount of time, a time frame of that he has to be able to get the rest of his certification?
We said, and they have to get at least a level 1 across the board in 2 years. And it takes just about that. Because you're talking, it's a matter of taking a class, getting scheduled when the test is available. Now COVID makes that even more challenging, passing the test. And so it takes just about 2 years to get certified. And so at least a level 1 across the board. Then it takes some years after that to get up to at least a level 3. Level 4 is the highest. One of the incentives that we have, and we've had this in place for a long time, is that for every certification, that there's a 2% pay increase. So they get a level 1 plumbing, they get a 2%. Level 1 building, 2%. So there's that built-in incentive that not a lot of other counties, they may pay a lot more starting off, but they don't necessarily have that incremental increase built into it. I think, with that, it'll help us to keep the one we've got. I do have some flexibility with hiring this building inspector 2 position. I can offer anywhere within that range. I can't go outside that range, but you all set that range pay scale down.
Unless you make a request for the board.
Unless I make a
I would
request.
start at the beginning.
Ma'am.
I would start at the beginning. You gotta go somewhere in the middle.
Well, I really think that we just had the experience of, there's a demand for building inspectors everywhere. And we've been in the position of training a lot of people across the board and losing them. And a part of that has been our pay classification. And 2% of nothing is nothing. I mean, if you start at nothing, you got 2% of nothing, okay? So even that 2% incentive that he's talking about, and I've been pushing Mr. Evans to pay people, to pay. When we promote people, pay them. When we hire them, pay them. And we change our workforce. And I support the pay. It's just when it comes to the board, sometimes we're a little hesitant. We're a little slow in granting this pay. So I've encouraged them. And since we all are encouraging the pay, let's support it when that happens. Next was it. Go ahead.
We know if a person get trained, they won't get paid. They will get trained if they didn't want to pay. But not football player, not the basketball, I'm talking about employee. And the same thing is with the sheriff, come here, get trained, go somewhere and get paid. And that's what we need to eliminate from the start, is to make sure that the process of keeping somebody includes pay.
And I think some of that, even when we promote people, I think we have a tendency to say that they would get no more than 5% or something like that, or no more than 10%. It's kind of built into, but when we bring people from outside, they tend to have more negotiating, more ability to negotiate their salaries, and maybe our policy deals with that. And my mindset is to encourage the manager to, even when we promote them from within, if we want to keep them, give that kind of consideration to it also, okay? That's what I am. You're right, we do get people do advance their education so that they can get promoted. And a lot of times it's one where the social climate of where they want to live, a lot of those other things play into that. But so we I think are beginning to do things that we can create this whole social climate in our county to help keep people that will want to stay in our community also, with some of the things that we're talking about. Any other comments? Go ahead, Sam.
Regarding the transition of Ems Services, we're moving along with that. We have made offers to a number of employees, about 35 employees that are in the process of accepting those offers. That will be ongoing. Our goal is to still plan to start us operating that in-house on the 21st of this month. What we plan to do at next month's meeting is to introduce you to our EMS coordinator as well as our supervisors. We also will have one of our new trucks here for you to see. We'll have it parked outside as long as they don't desperately need it for a call at night, because we're quickly putting those into service as we get those. What we do need to do is we do need to terminate the franchise agreement effective the 21st. So you have a copy of that at your place. And so Mr. Peters drafted this. I want to take the opportunity to say thank you to him. He does a great job anyway and everything he's been doing. This was all new. He has helped us really find our way through this transition smoothly and make sure that we dot i's and cross t's the way we're supposed to. So publicly, I want to say thank you to him for his work. Also, to Mark Walters and his staff has really been working on this day in and day out and getting this ready to be up and running come January 21. So I do recommend that you approve this, the resolution that's presented to you here to terminate the franchise agreement for Edgecombe County Rescue Squad.
I made that motion.
I say. Questions? All in favor, let it come out of vote side. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, hearing none. It is approved. I thought it's on my mind that the concerns of Mr. Dancer raised. If I need to raise comments on this, people have to raise the answer those next month, okay?
Sure.
Okay. I will say on one of them, in terms of the question, in terms of the way we report our statistics, I've had discussions with Mr. Peters and Stebbins in terms of we satisfy statutory requirements, okay? And as long as we satisfy those statutory requirements, I'm in agreement. I have been in agreement if the board has no difference. Yeah, but let's be prepared to address this, okay?
Yes, sir. You have workforce indicators there. I did not include it on the agenda, but I do have an updated sales tax report there. I will try to have that for you each month. So that's all I have on the main.
Commissioner's report.
I'm going to ask everyone. Ditches out in the county. You know, the church in the county, so I get passed by a whole bunch of ditches. And so I get these questions like, who handles that now? I mean, because we've got every ditch I pass by, it's like trash, and then we had all this rain, and I passed by people's yards. I mean, I just flooded 33 legged, different yards and everything. And so the question came to me right out of my house, why somebody not doing something about those ditches? Because you know the thing, we supposed to do everything. So I wanted to find out who's required to clean the ditches in the county.
If it is a ditch that's in a DOT right of way, DOT is responsible for maintaining that. Now, DOT used to very easily go off of those right of ways and go down and follow those ditches. But now budget restraints and all of that, they're very limited in how much they do now. If it's in the DOT right of way, would you say that's correct, Mike? If they're in the DOT right of way, it's the DOT's responsibility cleaning out, making sure it's flowing properly. They might not be able to maintain it exactly how the homeowner living behind it or next to it would like, but they are supposed to make sure they maintain it at least so that water drains off the road, drains away from the road. Now, if it's a ditch that's further onto private property, it's that property owner's responsibility to maintain that.
It's 33 state responsibility.
Highway 33?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, that's the state.
I need them down here in front of my church.
Well, I say,
Oh, use that place for dump, man.
Oh, trash.
trash.
Water stands in front of the church.
Well, I would say, I don't think it's necessarily DOT's responsibility
Y'all got
to
to
pick
clean
up
this
trash.
ditch out.
That's been a huge problem, not just in our county, across the state. It's not DOT's responsibility necessarily to pick up trash, unless it is impeding the flow of water that's in a right-of-way ditch. A ditch that's in their right-of-way. DOT used to have contracts where you probably remember seeing them along 64 bypass, some of the exits, they had contracts out where they were cleaning up, litter along the roads, but they have, to my understanding, cut those contracts about a year ago.
And that was my next, because they got really terrible. All the exits, 64 going toward Raleigh from here, that kind of thing. The other one thing is, the focus group that's in that other building.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you had any complaints from employees about not having parking because those folks are parking?
Yeah.
And if so, have you had a conversation with the owner? Because I thought parking for them was further down the street or something.
Yeah, so yes, we've had a conversation with, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but I guess he's the manager there, on-site manager. It was an ongoing discussion for a while there. I think the employees were trying to figure out where they couldn't park. Of course, they want to park as close as they can, like everybody else does. And so, but we have to, as best we can, protect parking for our employees as best we can. And especially for our clients coming into the Human Services building. So we've notified them, you know, if you think about it, you're standing at what I call the back door or the client entrance off St. Andrews into the Human Services Board. That parking lot immediately right outside that door, we refer to that as parking lot 8. So we have asked they not park there. We want that for handicap parking as well as parking for our clients that are coming in. Our employees are not even supposed to park there. Across St. Andrews Street, parking lot B, we have designated, we park county vehicles there. We have designated some of the spaces closest to St. Andrews for our clients. We went through and did a major cleanup of that parking lot a couple of weeks ago. But we've said any space beyond that that's not marked, they can park there. Then you've got the bigger parking lot that's across Church Street, that since we've been in that building, we've maintained that for our employees. We've got a sign there. And here recently, I know I got some emails from employees that, you know, they try to come as early as they can to get one of those cars, and they were already full. And so what we're actually going to do for that parking lot is that we're preparing decals to hang from the rear view of our employees. We do have a sign up that says Edgecombe Human Service Employees Towing and Force. And so we're going to have those decals issued, those placards issued pretty soon. So, you know, we're trying to come to some, I don't know if it'll be a happy medium, but some middle ground there. That there are plenty of parking spaces, you know, away from the building. I've let them know they're welcome to park here. This parking lot is only full maybe 2 or 3 times throughout the year. There's parking available at the town of Tarboro as, you know, just on the other side of what used to be Cotton's restaurant, that really they prepared for employees in that building. Just nobody's used to having to walk a couple of blocks. I think that's a good problem to have. Downtown Tarboro is busier than it ever has been, and I just think it's a good problem to have. I think we'll work it out.
Get one toe, you'll work it out.
I think that's what it is.
Yep.
Any other questions? Hearing none, attorney?
We went too fast. Ms. Powell and I wanted to make one.
You can speak for it.
Ms. Powell and I wanted to show y'all our certificate. We just completed NACO's Professional Development Academy, High Performance Leadership, and we both received a master's certificate after 12 weeks of intense study. I mean, I'm talking about hours a week that we had to dedicate in order to get this. And once a week we had group discussion. Then once a week we met with everyone, all 50 states that's involved in it. But I just want to say thank you to our manager for allowing us to attend. They had been asking us several times, but it was very worth the while. And hopefully as soon as COVID is over, she and I are going to teach a class, leadership class, if Mr. Manager would let us, with his staff, because we really learned a lot. We both thought we had it going on, didn't we? Yeah. We found out we have a lot of stuff that we needed to improve and learn to do. So we're just proud.
Well, congratulations to both of you. You are now experts.
We are.
And we're proud of you.
And I found out Edgecombe County, I don't care what people say, we do have a great county because we were involved with people from Mississippi and other states who have not gotten where Edgecombe County has gotten. So, don't ever put stuff down.
And just from the commissioner standpoint, fortunately in our group, we were all commissioners.
Right.
So we really had a lot in common. And those other folks, they actually fought, and they'll be, they won't nice like us. But I was proud to represent Edgecombe County because we have a lot of positive things to share. One of the things that I enjoyed about it was Colin Powell.
Right.
He was one of the main facilitators for that.
Well, he actually created the class, so we got to hear from him a lot.
Yeah.
And we got a signed book.
Yeah, so it was really nice. Thank you for allowing us to go.
Thank you for going, and for taking the time to go. I'll attend that, I'm too old. So I need the knowledge that I need you all to get that knowledge.
To get that knowledge to bring back to you. Okay, that'll work.
Nothing from attorney. At this time, we're scheduled to go into a closed session to discuss economic development and a legal matter. Is there a motion? Question? All in favor, let me know by both sides. Aye. All opposed, ladies and gentlemen, we now stand in executive session.